Welcome to the POZcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host,
Rhona Pierce, live from Unleash US in Las Vegas. Welcome everyone to the POZcast. I am Rhona Pierce, your guest host. We are here live at Unleash 2025 from Fountain's boardroom. Thank you so much, Fountain, for bringing the POZcast to Unleash. And I am so excited. I am here with George Rogers. He is the Chief Strategy Officer at Lighthouse Research and Advisory. We're going to have a great conversation today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited about being here. Thank you so much. Shout out to Fountain. Love you guys and everything. So yeah, I'm excited. This has been a great week. Very impactful, very inspiring. And so I'm just grateful to be here with you and have a conversation.
Thank you. So for those who don't know, tell us a little about who you are and what you do best.
Ooh, that's good. It depends on the day. I can be a shoe shopper. I'm very passionate about shoes. I got a few of them, a few hundred. But what I typically do, I'm very passionate about people in general. When it comes to championing my purpose, I believe my purpose is people, and to empower them and help lead them. And more importantly, from something that it's come personal, right? A lot of things that we do become something that's, part of our life, and just having that belief and giving that belief and instilling that belief in other people. And so I'm very passionate about impacting others and leading through that authentic, empathetic, type of leader. And so that's what I do from a work standpoint. Chief Strategy Officer is a cool title for a guy that does a little bit of everything. I'm very passionate on the leadership side. Obviously, I mentioned that. So cultural leadership and mental health, well-being, the aspects of all things employee, right? Employee engagement. What does that look like? Employee engagement to me is now employee fulfillment. What do you do after employees are engaged? There's the next step. People want to have a sense of belonging. So those areas within our Lighthouse Research is things that I cover, and love to talk about those things.
When did you first realize that was your passion and your purpose?
It's a good question. It goes a long time ago, right? So 28 years ago in high school, my dad, who adopted me, really instilled three principles that I love when it comes to leadership. So when I think about leadership, it's what I received from the greatest leader, which was my dad. And that was love, grace, and trust. So when I think about leadership, most people say influence, but loving people is a way to influence and showing grace to people, right? And so I needed that. I needed some love. I didn't know what it was. I needed tough love, right? And I needed a lot of grace for where I was in my life, and then trust. When I didn't trust myself, somebody else did, and that instilled those beliefs that I can and it's capable. So in high school, I got away from sports. Coming up from the inner city, that was my only way out until I realized there's more to life than just a pigskin, in a sense. And so 97, 98 seems like a long time ago, right? But yeah, that was the moment I realized this is my purpose.
I love that you realize that so early in life, because a lot of people don't realize their purpose until later in life. I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
And I love the reframe of love is a way of influencing.
Yeah. It is. When you think about it, for so long in the workforce, employers and companies and organizations have always said, leave your personal life at the threshold, right? When you come through this is work. We don't care about your life. But at the same time, they text, email you were at home, and it doesn't, right? And so we talk about the argument of work-life balance. There's no balance to it. We are human. There's no stopping or pausing those things, but there's rhythm to life. How's your rhythm today? It may be quicker and fast-paced. Next week, it could be slow. It could be some trauma in your life in the seasonal times. And so there's a work-life rhythm that we have to have, and we need to be able to balance that. I think you're seeing that over the last 5 or so years, the culture within workplaces is becoming more empathetic and embracing the L word.
So in your book, Champion Your Purpose, you talk about how finding your purpose looks different for everyone. Have you noticed any patterns in how successful leaders connect their personal purpose to their organizations?
Yeah, so it's a good question. It goes back to your statement, right? I found mine early on and you didn't. And I think the difference there is not necessarily whether we find it, it's how we define it, right? what you find and what you define as is two different things. And so, although I knew my purpose, I didn't understand what that meant, for 5, 10 years, what it looked like, right? And so you dabble in different areas, saying this is me, you go to college, you get your degree, whatever it may be, your story may be. But it takes a moment and an opportunity to say, this is it, right? This is where I want to be, this is who I am, and this settles it. And it doesn't matter the organization. And so it looks different when it comes to the purpose and how you find it for each other and leaders impact on that. I think it's knowing your people, right? What looks and what's spoken to you may not transpire for me. And so we can say, hey, this is our line of how we do it, but it's different because we're all different. Even if we came from the same walk of life, our household may be different, right? And so I think that's the importance of leadership, is that we have to understand, whether it's 5 people on our team or 20 people on our team, everybody speaks a different language. And so understanding your people on your team is value. How you communicate, how you recognize them. Some people like public, some people don't want to be in the spotlight. Some people don't want any recognition. Just pay me the value, recognize me in the value of monetary, or maybe it's benefits in other areas. And so the importance of knowing your people is the first step. Do you know your people? If you don't know your people, then we're talking about, how do they trust you? How do they believe in you? And then we can root it down to belonging, right? The psychological definition of belonging is I feel accepted, respected, and appreciated. And if employees don't have that sense of belonging, then there's no open table to connecting. I'm not going to believe anything you're trying to pour into me, because it looks like you're for profit, not for people. And so understanding your people is number one.
Amazing. So I'm going to read this because I saw a recent post of yours that you wrote that authentic leaders bring peace, not by avoiding chaos, but by helping teams find rhythm through it.
Yeah.
What does embodying peace look like in practice?
So I'm an acronym junkie. So I love shoes and I love acronyms. That's how I remember everything. And peace actually came out spontaneously last year at Unleash. While Magic Johnson was coming to the stage, I needed to buy some time. And I just really, after talking to, several people in the audience, HR professionals, leaders, not just HR people, but just we as leaders, sometimes we need to provide a certain peace. And peace looks different. Peace for me is mountains and waterfalls, right? Peace for you may be ocean, beaches. Peace for somebody else may be a mini patty. So it looks different. Retail therapy, whatever it is. But when I think about peace, P is for purpose driven, right? We provide a purpose driven culture where everybody doesn't just know what they do, but they know why they do it. There has to be that sense of purpose, because then it gives it a fulfillment. It gives them that sense of, I get to bring my soul to work, right? And so being purpose driven is important. And then empathetic, we mentioned that earlier, right? I mentioned that before. So empathetic leadership, it's not about soft, touchy. It's the fact that I understand where you are. I don't understand how you feel, but I've been there, and this is what I found, right? So the F3 law, feel, felt, found. I understand how you feel. I don't understand how you feel, but I once felt this way in a similar situation. This is what I found. And so you have that. A is for adaptability. We always have to adapt. Great leaders adapt. No matter what happens, we have to adapt and be willing to adapt. And then C is the conductor of chaos, especially in the HR professional world. Yeah. Things get chaotic. It's nothing ever stays the same for too long, especially with AI and technology and all the changes. We have to embrace those changes. So be conductors of chaos. When there's turbulent times, we breathe and remind people that it's going to be all right. And then the final E is empowering. It's not what you have, it's what you give to your people. And the moment you're able to release, not necessarily just to delegate and give them busy work, but truly empower them to grow beyond where you are, right? It's the famous Steve Jobs quote of, what happens if you invest in your people and they leave? And the response is, what happens if you don't and they stay, right? And so as leaders, if we're going to bring peace, we have to often inspect what we expect.
That's so good. So as Chief Strategy Officer at Lighthouse, how are you using data to help organizations measure the connection between culture and performance?
I mean, if you look at it, everything that we talked about, belonging, we talked about, what does it look like to have a great place to work, right? Employees that are connected with their leader employees that have a sense of belonging by 3 basic definitions. You accept me for who I am, where I am. You respect me, and then you show me that appreciation. Those 3 things happen, you're 5 times more likely to say, this is a great place to work. So when you talk about the greatest marketing of retention, it's through accepting, respecting, and appreciating your people and creating that sense of belonging, right? And so for that matter, we use that, whether it's culture, whether it's performance, whether it's recognition, whether it's in the TA field. There's so many different things, but it all boils down to how we as leaders, we as recruiters, treat our candidates, how we use the proper tools, fountain, right, to be able to find the right people for the right place at the right time. Right, yeah. There's an alignment there. You can't just bring people in. There's got to be a sense of purpose that aligns with it.
Hey everybody, Adam here from the POZcast. Today's POZcast is brought to you by the team at Fountain. Fountain is your full-service frontline workforce management platform. I have to tell you, Fountain's offerings are some of the most robust I've seen for any product in the space. They offer full solutions for hiring, managing, and retention. They are truly a one-stop shop focused on the frontline workforce. They also create informative content using their data. For example, they analyze a bunch of data from their fast food chains and created a trend report you could download now on their website. They also have a new ebook out called Frontline Voices. There's a lot to dive into. Certainly check it out. And you could learn more at fountain.com, linked in the show notes. Thank you.
So for leaders who want to better align culture and performance in their organization, like what's one action that you recommend that they take like today?
I had this mindset that I was tired of waiting to get a seat at the table. So I started creating my own. And that's where employees are, right? We're not waiting for employers to say, hey, do this. We just create it. When I think about culture, can I ask you a question? I know
Yeah. You can ask
if you're to define culture, whether it's a phrase or a word, and think of it in a sense of a good culture is X, right? How would you define culture?
So I have a definition of culture that I stole from someone that I love.
Let's do it.
Culture is the behavior, it's what you reward.
Yeah. And so when I think about culture, I believe culture is how most, not all, but how most employees feel, believe, and behave. Not all the time, but most of the time, right? And in organizations, a lot of people say, hey, we need to fix your behavior. What's this issue? And I relate it to a child. Like, a child behaves in a way because of the root of it. We think the root is behavior. The behavior is the outcome. The root is how you made me feel as an employee. And because how you made me feel, I now believe that you are not a great leader. And if this company is hiring you and allow you to treat me this way or speak this way or lead this way or manage this way, then I believe this is probably a bad company and I don't like the culture of it. And so my behavior then becomes whether I stay with this company because the money may be good, it may be beneficial to a hybrid schedule that I need for my family. People stay in those places for a long, but when it comes to culture, it's how we feel, believe, behave. And so, when people are wanting to create a culture of good, create a culture where there's authenticity, there's a great communication and respect, it starts with leaders leading by example, right? How you make people feel matters because they're going to believe that and then they'll act it out. And so we can't fix behavior. We just have to treat people like people and not profit.
Amazing. So I have a few quick fire questions, just whatever comes to mind first.
Okay.
So what's one practice that you use personally to stay grounded as a leader during chaotic times?
What's one practice? That's a good question. I think for me, I have a 24-hour rule. If it's chaos, whether it's a frustrating employee, whether it's a moment of, somebody needs a quick decision, if there's something bothering me, I usually have a 24-hour rule where I sleep on it. If I wake up the same way and I'm passionate and frustrated about it, it needs to be addressed. Mm-hmm. Now, how do we address this? Well, I know that Sarah here may need 24-hour notice. She does not like to be brought into the meeting without preparation. Otherwise, I get a shut down person that doesn't want to talk, right? Sarah could be a sorry and rotten attitude. That's another acronym. Sarah, if you're out there, I love you. I'm just joking with you. All the Sarahs out there. But, my father instilled something in me very early. He said, you can't wake up with joy if you go to bed with Sarah, the sorry, rotten attitude, right? And so I have to then say, all right, how do I speak the language of my employee? This person, Sarah, needs preparation. How does she want communication? Do I need to go face to face with her? Does she prefer email? Does she read the emails, and make it bigger than what it is, right? It could be a minor, trivial type trial, not some traumatic experience where I'm about to fire you. But sometimes the messaging can be perceived as something, right? And so you have to know the employees and how they receive that communication. Hey, I want to talk to you, and this is what it's about, right? Maybe in person. So the body language matters versus want to talk to me. What did I do wrong, right? And so for me, I do a 24-hour rule when it comes to anything negative, even if it's minor to traumatic. I sleep on it. If I'm passionate about it the next morning, then I ask myself, what would I need to do if I was on the other side of the table? And how does that person receive communication and preparation?
I like that. What's a moment in your life when you felt you were truly living your purpose?
Today.
Really? Tell me more.
Yeah, I think for me, anytime, if I was to leave this earth, this is my final day. I think for me, I like to break the ice. Another acronym. We get just acronym podcasts, right? ICE for me, and it's our company motto for our HR summer school program that we do. But ICE is inspire, connect, and educate. And if I can do that, I found so much fulfillment. And it's not about recognition. Craig Rochelle, one of my favorite leaders of all time, he says something that's very powerful, is that people want to follow leaders not because they're always right, but because they're always real. And so it's not about being right. George is real, and I'm fulfilled when I'm able to inspire people, connect with people, and educate them. And then most of the times as leaders, we get this all the time, right? We try to lead and inspire others, but in return, those people are actually inspiring us as well and fulfilling our cups.
For sure. So what's one piece of advice that you give leaders that surprises them, but you believe in deeply?
Be selfish. Be willing to be selfish. In a world where, especially HR professionals, they're employees too,
Yes.
but they're also torn between two lovers. The employees think that they love the C-suite more. The C-suite thinks that they're doing too much for the employees. And so it's like, but at the same time, they're employees too. And so when it comes to leadership, when it comes to employees, leaders, HR pros, whatever your title is you have to be selfish and take care of you, because you cannot fill a cup from an empty jar. And so having that moment, even if it's the first 5 minutes of your day, and just breathe in. Do something you enjoy. Listen to the song that cheers you up. Listen to the song that may change your mood to what it needs to be. Right? Do something for you often, because the worst thing in life is to live a purpose life where you're impacting others, and then you're loving others, you're showing grace to others, you're trusting others, but you're not doing the greatest thing. And the sum of life to me is how well, not that we lead others, but the sum of life is how well we lead ourselves. And so true leadership starts with self-leadership, understanding who you are, what you own, where you're going, and who do you want to be when you finally get there.
I love that. Anything that you think listeners need to know that I haven't asked you?
Yes, I think you should buy a pair of shoes every month, every location. I have a passion for shoes. I got a few hundred shoes. And I always say that just like us, everybody has a story. We can sit down and talk about our personal life, right? And there's a story behind that, or why.
Yeah.
And I think shoes do that as well. For some people, it's something different, right? I got my sister. She used to collect lighters. I had no clue why. She, didn't play with fire, but it was just it was something that ignites the flame. How do we keep the flame? That was the story around it, right? And so, having that in a serious note, I would encourage people to really dare to do the impossible, right? Whatever that is, just do it. Like I'd rather fail than to live a life never risking and wondering what could have been or should have been.
So you're the type of person who believes nothing is impossible?
Nothing is impossible. It's not, right? It takes somebody to open the door, and it takes somebody to believe. It's impossible alone. We're not meant to be alone. And so, if you want to go far, and fast, go by yourself. If you want to spread and make an impact, we need others. And so each one can reach one. We all have an audience.
Perfect. This has been a great conversation. Where can listeners connect with you?
Yes, championyourpurpose.com is the website. Our company website is lhra.io. For all our research, you can find it there. And then on all social media is George Rogers. LinkedIn is probably my favorite, that you can get to. But any social media platform you can find me.
Perfect. Thank you again for being on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to Fountain.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the POZcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepozcast.com.